the question you're gonna ask up front, is it better than the Justice League Joss Whedon / Zack Snyder Frankenstein cut?
Yes.
Yes.
And let me just say, the movie's really good.
This film is infinitely better.
The best quality possible because it's worth watching and worth buying on Blu-ray.
In the end, it really doesn't matter what I thought of the movie or what hundreds of others thought of it.
Hello everyone, I'm back again, and this time to talk about one of the most anticipated films of this year, thanks to Twitter, Justice League. As many of you know, this is Zack Snyder's fleshed out version and vision of what he wanted Justice League to be. Supposedly, because who the fuck even knows with this shit. As many of you are aware, he left the project due to a family tragedy and is now back. Several years later, here we are, with Zack Snyder finally getting to complete the vision as he saw it. And while I'm glad Zack got the chance to do what he really wanted, it is also my job to be honest and unbiased, and that is to say, I really hate this movie and think it's utter garbage. Keep in mind, I have no recollection of Justice League, so what thoughts I do have are purely based on my experience watching this film with no comparison for the other. Maybe perhaps I might bring up one or two things that I remember specifically not being in Justice League that make Zack Snyder's cut worse, but why should I subject myself to more DCU garbage? Now, before many of you grab your pitchforks and stab me to death, allow me to set a couple things straight for you by telling you my history with the DCEU. When I was 14, Man of Steel released to a mixed reception to say the least. Personally, I loved it. My family hated it, but well, that didn't change my love. Hearing others on the internet talk about their love for the movie was awesome because in reality, those around me did not feel the same way, and I thought they were insane. After the announcement of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, I was really hyped. Batman fights Superman? How awesome is that? It would be at that time the greatest crossover of all time in the eyes of many who had been looking forward to seeing that on the big screen. And when it came out, I was disappointed. My expectations were super high, and what I got, at least at that time, was something less than that. Slowly, I soured out on the DCU because every movie after that, for me, got worse and worse. I didn't realize at that point why it got worse, but it just did, and I slowly lost interest. Eventually, I came to the realization through either rewatching and being critical of the DCU, or, well, through film discussions with others, that the DCU is pretty bad. These films are not well written at all and pose a huge morality problem with our heroes. So even though I still hold Man of Steel dear to me, I understand that it is a pretty bad movie and thus have not revisited it in a while because I don't want the memory that I cherish ruined for me. The reason I bring this part up is because while discussing Zack Snyder's Justice League online, I have had the worst time. Calling out bad faith arguments has led to me being labeled childish. Explaining the plot of this movie and trying to make substantial points of why it doesn't make sense has led to me being called a CinemaSins knockoff, as apparently talking about the flaws of the film's actual narrative is nitpicking now, and instead I should go watch something I enjoy, as if I am for some reason not allowed to be critical of the medium I care about? It is honestly pretty pathetic that people believe you cannot be critical of some form of art simply because, well, you might be the contrarian in your circle. Or they'll dismiss your points and call you names without substantiating that point. Well, I'm sitting here trying to discuss the elements of the film. I have said all of this for me to conclude this portion by saying that this video is, well, not intended to change your mind or ruin your personal experience with this movie. Like I've said before to others, I will say it again. If you got any enjoyment out of this movie, whether you like it or love it, that's awesome. I celebrate that. I honestly believe if you got what you're looking for from this movie, that is great, and I'm glad you found it enjoyable. I sadly did not like this movie, and I'm here to make arguments and back them up in order for you to understand why this film is poorly made regardless of your levels of enjoyment. I think this is a pathetically executed film with more flaws than I will probably even be able to cover in this video. To me, Justice League is an example of why you should never listen to fans because, well, Most fans are fucking stupid. Yep, sorry, I can't change the way I feel, so I don't care if it offends your feelings, I still stand by it. In any case, you might watch this video, hear my arguments, and, well, still like this movie. Or you might watch this video and argue back saying that my points might be invalid and hopefully substantiate them, because I've noticed people don't tend to do that. But at the end of the day, hopefully we're all friends. Well, even if there will be times where I probably talk shit about the people who enjoyed it out of my frustration of the people I have dealt with online. So you have been warned. Thus, I shall not dwell on this point any further. I've created timestamps for the major points I will be discussing today, primarily breaking down what I believe to be the biggest writing issues with this film. As always, constructive criticism is welcome, whether it be with the arguments presented, how the video is edited, audio qualities, or it could be something else. So let us jump into what I actually liked about this movie. I love the music for the most part. Thomas Holkenborg, whose name I hope I'm not butchering, did a really good job with the score, incorporating Hans Zimmer's work from Man of Steel. I would still argue Man of Steel is some of Hans' best work, and Flight till this day gives me legit goosebumps, especially when Clark takes off for the first time. Most of the music was pretty great in setting the atmosphere, whether it be the intense drum-heavy music when shit is going down, or these fun groovy guitars in the background when our heroes are entering the battle. It was pretty fun to listen to, and definitely more of the subjective element of the film that I personally got a kick out of. But you might have noticed an asterisk by my point, and there's simply one reason, and you might already know it. Wonder Woman's soundtrack. Dear Lord, I could not tolerate it. The first time I heard this, I was like, oh, okay, no guitars, that's pretty interesting. But by the 20th time, I was pulling my hair and rolling my fucking eyes. Seriously, you might think I'm kidding, but every time the Amazonians were in battle or Wonder Woman got her individual fighting scene, the stupid lamentation music, as the subtitles say, would play, and I got sick and tired of it fairly quickly. Yeah, there is another asterisk here too, but let me talk about how I like the aesthetics of the film. I understand I fall in the minority here, but I genuinely like the color grading and visuals of the cities and different locations. Yes, it is a bit CGI heavy and will sometimes noticeable too, and thus criticism of it is fully justified, but I really liked it nonetheless. Some of the action sequences are surprisingly badass too. I love Wonder Woman deflecting these bullets from Bruce Bolton, even though the scene is actually stupid, but I will talk about that soon. I love Superman's entry right here where he blocks Steppenwolf's axe and then tells him he isn't impressed and then freezes it and breaks it like a fucking badass. Aquaman has some dope moments too, but yeah, let us get back to that asterisk because I really hate the way the Flash runs. He looks constipated and like a moron in multiple scenes, especially when it's slowed down. Which brings me to the next problem I have, the slow motion. See how annoying that is? Apparently IGN went through the movie painstakingly, and the total amount of slow motion is about 24 minutes and 7 seconds, meaning over 10% of the film is all slow motion. You could actually eliminate almost a half hour by just playing the scenes at its actual pace. Slow motion once or twice is fine, but when it is a whole half an hour, I'm sorry, but you are doing something wrong. Especially when it isn't adding anything to the movie. Do we really need to see Diana's mom sliding in slow motion? Exactly. This is a point I will continue to elaborate on later in the video, so don't you worry.
This is a person who looks exactly like me, but who is definitely not me. Somebody, I don't know, hippie, long hair, very attractive Jewish boy.
Whether it was actual jokes or stupid moments, I found this movie pretty funny at times. Yeah, some of the jokes are corny, but I was laughing or chuckling at them. It was even funnier when the movie was being serious, like Barry trying to fix this girl's hair when she's about to die from a car crash. It's really creepy, man. It just made me laugh so hard, like what the hell? Or the notorious scene of Gal Gadot saying, "Hello, no." which is even funnier because they clearly reshot it due to the emphasis on the word no, but it still sounds pretty bad. And then Jeremy Irons actually had a few great lines. He's definitely one of the best parts of the movie, even though he is in what I gather maybe 5-6 scenes. I do not have much else to add to this portion, so let us get to basically everything else, because like I said before, this movie is not good. I'm not joking here. Steppenwolf, Darkseid, and their little minions, the Parademons, are the biggest idiots in this entire movie, so allow me to explain. The movie begins with Superman's death via Doomsday, where apparently his scream was so loud that it woke up the mother boxes. Except it doesn't wake up 2 of the 3, but then the second one just wakes up like that without a trace. It's really messy, but I shall bring this point later on in the video. This also makes it extra convenient for the bad guys, and it is evidently very contrived writing that when the strongest man, Earth's defender, dies, the bad guys get summoned by the mother boxes. In 5,000 years, these dudes get summoned after Earth's strongest hero dies, but not when he didn't, and certainly not before his arrival. Really weird. Steppenwolf can teleport anywhere. You might ask, how? I can't answer that because I don't know. Kind of. This mechanic isn't properly explained and contradicts other information presented, because I was discussing the film with a few others on Discord and they argued that it is the mother box that summons Steppenwolf, but that really doesn't make sense to me. I can maybe understand if it calls to him, but straight up a portal to where it is? If that is the case, why wouldn't he be summoned when Victor's dad is operating on him? Is it because Superman is still alive? Sure, they don't know that Earth isn't united like it once was, but wouldn't they want their planet-dominating weapons back? Later in the film, Diana and Cyborg both place emphasis on the boxes being useless without someone taming it. So if Darkseid and his minions are gone for 5,000 years, why would they ever call to them? If you still bought into that, why would it call Steppenwolf and not Darkseid? It is really absurd and the logic makes no sense here. This mechanic, if thought about for more than a second, just creates more questions because it is super integral to Steppenwolf showing up where the mother boxes are and allows him to collect them. Some will dismiss this as a nitpick, but really give it a thought to this mechanic for a second. This guy can show up and leave whenever the mother box has a crack in it and has been opened. Easy comparison is to Infinity War, where we could at least see the big ship that allowed Thanos' children to get sent down to Earth in order to collect the Infinity Stones. This argument is strictly based on what their method of transportation is and how the logistics work, not the entire movie. Although, well, it is the better movie. The reason I bring this up is because in this movie, Steppenwolf basically goes from point A to B to fucking Z, and apparently he and his parademons can do it, but Darkseid cannot? But then again, Darkseid is an idiot, but I'll elaborate on that point in a bit. In between this, we are plagued by stupid decisions from the Amazonians, specifically Diana's mom, because her plan is to take the mother box, and then I don't know. You do know he will keep coming after you, right? Your closing the cage won't do anything. You fought against that army, against Darkseid. You know just as much as the next person in that battle, so why would you even think that a small building would be good enough to trap him? And not only that, but also keep this super important weapon in a place like this that has a big hole in it.
Not a great plan.
Like Batman says later on.
That's just a strategy to lose more slowly, not to win.
Why not fight him and try to defeat him? Speaking of fighting, the power scaling for the villains is also very inconsistent, but I shall get into that in my next segment. These parademons can also track the scent of the mother boxes, except when they can, because bad writing prevents them from doing so. They abduct people with the scent of the mother boxes on them, but when this parademon is literally 2 feet away from the actual mother box, he apparently forgets how to smell because it fucks off, and you're left wondering why and how, because none of this makes sense. This is also an issue because parademons going to the lab first lets Victor's dad warn his son about it, thus setting the whole domino off. A parademon literally comes back to the same apartment and abducts Cyborg's dad because he smells the scent on him, but couldn't smell the actual box? What the fuck is this logic? Also, you cannot make the argument that they can't smell the box since it isn't open, because in part 4, Cyborg explains that although the box is closed, the parademons can still sense it, meaning they should be able to eventually trace its whereabouts even if they are a few coordinates off. And in part 2, Steppenwolf tells parademons to trace the scent of the other two, so there is literally no reason other than to avoid a quick resolution for this to happen. As it stands and explained by this movie, it is a clear contradiction in actions and is really bad writing. Later on, we see Steppenwolf transport himself to a toxic place in some off-town in Russia, where he needs a scrap of metal to be able to communicate to Desaad and even get Darkseid's attention. And in order to use this, he needs the mother box? Very basic question here, but why doesn't he have an actual communication device that does not require one of the most powerful weapons in order to be able to talk to this army? It is really absurd to me that these people have conquered 100,000 worlds, but can't talk to each other? Unless it was always the mother boxes, but then they lost them anyway, so if you made that point, how did they talk for the last 5,000 years when traveling? Also, this scrap of metal is being utilized to create the unity, even though in the flashback they never needed it. The sorcerers were chanting and it was just taking place.
Really makes you think.
But don't worry y'all, because it gets worse. The dumbest scene happens right here. The movie is still stupid later on, but this is the stupidest shit of all shit, so allow me to take you on a ride. Diana tells Bruce the story of Darkseid, which she learns on the wall. Darkseid came to Earth 5,000 years ago to conquer, where Amazonians, Atlanteans, and men fought together, yet for some reason it was never passed down in history? Diana's mom and aunt fought in this fucking war, but Diana was never told about it growing up?
Jesus fucking Christ, that's terrible.
She's also 5,000 years old according to Cyborg, so why does this person learn very important history through a damn painting? Why is this the case? It is so idiotic that this character would know. Diana's mom told her about how she came to be and the dispute between Zeus and Ares, but not this big war between all of humanity and the gods versus alien invaders. She even states that there was a time of peace until they were enslaved, but this flashback takes place before they were enslaved, which completely contradicts what her mom states in Wonder Woman. Side note, at this point, Diana never knew about the ancient Amazonian who fought against the men when they were enslaved when she was younger, even though the warriors are supposed to be stronger based on what we know. And now she doesn't know about Darkseid. Diana's mom has to be a shitty mother for not giving the kid a proper history lesson. But as I was saying, all these people have started fighting.
Attacked and fought.
Shut the fuck up with the exposition. I can see the fight for myself and figure things out. Except for the unity part, because it does require an explanation. The unity is a combination of the mother boxes that are neither evil nor good. Rather, they bend to the will of the supposed master and whoever tames it. Even though Darkseid and his gang abandoned the boxes 5,000 years ago, so if they opened, why would they ever even call to him? This terraforms the planet and its people who survive into parademons, and in the midst of the unity taking place, he discovers a secret weapon, apparently known as the anti-life equation. And if you're looking for an explanation, please give up, because there ain't one here. Keep in mind, Darkseid has at this point conquered 100,000 worlds, and loses to this one for the first time. He loses to Earth by getting axed by Ares, bleeds out, preventing the unity from happening because the sorcerers making it happen get killed off. And these mother boxes that have been very important for them to conquer other worlds because this is their most valuable weapons which help them are left behind because Darkseid forgot about. I'm sorry, but what the hell is this? Even if you made the argument that the boxes are useless without their masters, which somehow explained by Diana after reading a couple paintings, why would you leave your most powerful weapon behind? They are literally how you conquered the planets and have been doing so for 100,000 worlds, and therefore you need them, but now you will leave them behind? And not only that, but then they never come back to reclaim the mother boxes. You might ask why? Well, it's because, Darkseid forgot the name of the planet. How do you forget the name of the single planet you lost to? And not only that, but forget that that is where the mother boxes reside. Honest to God, what in the Christ almighty is this writing? Because later in the movie, we find out Steppenwolf and his goons never came because they were scared of Superman, and thus the mother boxes never opened, even though the mother boxers are told to be neutral, but in reality they can warp your mind like they do with that Cyborg and act sentient by asking for their master? What? They don't even mention being scared of him verbally, so why, movie, why? But this raises more questions because Superman was around for like 30 years, not 5,000, so what stopped them from coming to Earth then? Oh wait, I forgot, the bad guy forgot the fucking name of the planet. This becomes even more hilarious after when Steppenwolf collects the second mother box, it teleports him to another location on Earth, apparently discovering the anti-life equation, which is such an edgy name, then goes to Desaad, and then goes, oh my god, the planet where I found the first 2 mother boxes not only contains a third one, but is also named Earth. Wow. Oh, and then he says the anti-life equation is also here, which Darkseid should have known, but he forgot about it. How is this even possible, man? How can you be so stupid? And he realizes the anti-life equation part by rubbing his hand in the dirt. Great job, movie. You could have made up some technology wumbo jumbo, but no, you have the villain of the story discover and realize the anti-life equation exists on Earth by playing with dirt. So not only does Earth have all 3 mother boxes, but also the anti-life equation, and after conquering 100,000 worlds, you lose for the first time to the only world that has both of them, and you just forget about it. Does this man have dementia or something? Because holy shit, you have to be a special breed of stupidity to forget this. You really couldn't save the location on Google Maps? I'm repeating myself here a lot, but do you understand my frustration with this movie? And who exactly told these warriors that Earth is the only planet he lost to? How do you know this? Did you fucking ask them? Was there a questionnaire form you sent out? Because as it stands, this is just really absurd. Because this fact being true makes it only worse that you forgot the planet's name, which happens to be the only planet you ever lost to and has all the mother boxes and the anti-life equation. Please, movie, stop. Also, Steppenwolf has this spider robot that can extract the exact information he wants from a person. In this case, anyone he thinks has a scent of the mother box, he can place it on their heads and it will tell them if they've seen it and where it might be. Would be really helpful if he gave this to the parademons, wouldn't it? They never have to drag this Atlantean out and do this, nor waste their time abducting people. You gave them the task to find the other 2, so why would you not give them a helpful device like this? Seems pretty important in accomplishing your task and save a lot of time, my man. You know what would make it easier from a writing stance? Not having this device to avoid this criticism, or having it in the story, but using your brain and having it make sense in terms of the usage for the parademons. The little things. Steppenwolf also doesn't hear our heroes cross the bridge because his hearing is about as good as Helen Keller's, and tells Cyborg's dad while questioning another guy that his dad has a much stronger scent of the mother box, so shouldn't you question him first? I don't know, seems like the smarter option to me, but I'm not the villain of the story, so what the hell do I know? By the end, when the portals open up, our heroes stare at our villains, and the villains look back, and it's visually cool, but also really stupid because Superman could have just lasered Darkseid to death. But he doesn't, because how else will we get our really stupid sequels? And then Darkseid stomps on Steppenwolf's head. Desaad goes,
I told you, Steppenwolf would fail.
well gee, maybe if you helped the poor bastard out, he would have, you ugly looking nutsack. Power, heroes, and world building issues. Let me tell you guys and gals that there are a lot, and when I say a lot, like a lot of power, heroes, and world building inconsistencies when it comes to this movie. Some of them I stated in my last segment, specifically when it comes to the history of Earth involving men, Atlanteans, and Amazonians. But here I shall delve into issues with our major protagonists and how power and world building issues are intermingled with them. So let me start with my guy Batman, because good lord, he's more inconsistent than my internet speed. This character inconsistency is not new to this film. In fact, it stems from Batman v Superman, which, for the sake of my sanity, I do not want to revisit, but still an issue with this movie regardless. 18 months after the destruction of Metropolis, Batman wants revenge on Superman, views him as a threat, and through the power of sheer convenience, Lex is able to get them to fight each other, only for them to become best friends because they realized they have moms with the same first name.
Why did you say that name?
I don't even think I need to explain to you how stupid this scene was. Hell, the entire internet clowned on this scene. The Fine Bros literally had a segment on trying not to get triggered, and this was one of the clips that played because it is so absurd that the change in the character dynamics and relationship between these two would do such a 180 that besides from being at the mercy of bad writing, the audience immersion was completely disrupted.
Yes, because that's gonna change your whole f***ing ideals about killing an alien.
Like, who even refers to their mom by their first name? I mean, yeah, I do, but only sarcastically. And that is the problem with this character. If Batman still had to reluctantly form an alliance with Superman to fight Doomsday, it would still make sense. But by the end, he mourns his death and says he failed him, which makes no sense because he tried to kill him like 2 days ago. And this brings me to my problem here, and that is this character trait is carried through into this movie. Only about a month or two after Superman's death, and Bruce keeps trying to preach the gospel of Clark Kent, even though they were never friends. It is so hard to buy into this and makes me personally cringe really hard because they never shared a proper moment with each other. They don't know anything about one another at all besides having moms with the same name. They never went from hating each other to having trust issues to slowly forming a friendship. We went from point A to point Z in half a second, and all it does is sell this idea short that Bruce cares about Superman or wants to honor him. Batman befriending Superman is about as jarring as Anakin Skywalker going from turning in Palpatine to the Jedi Council to slaughtering little children. And apart from this, the man who distrusts basically everyone and tells Alfred about
How many good guys are left? How many stayed that way?
is now willing to trust all these people with zero hesitation. I'm not even asking him to be super pessimistic, but should he not have any type of reservations about the people he's bringing on board? I understand the Earth needs its defenders, but I don't know, when you want to properly vet the person, have some type of qualifiers, you just watched footage and decided to befriend them. Based on his character trait, wouldn't he have some reservations? In fact, there's a scene where Aquaman stupidly accuses Cyborg of being a bad guy to create fake tension even though he has no reason to do so. Isn't this kind of Batman's job, considering Cyborg, like an idiot, never carries the mother box with him because the parademons can smell the mother box's scent? In fact, he starts acting on faith and strictly faith. Aside from this, we have other stupid moments like Batman throwing a hissy fit and making it extremely urgent that he so badly needs to make this alliance. I understand why he wants to make this alliance, but technically the last time an alien attacked the city was nearly 2 years ago with Zod. Doomsday was created by Lex Luthor, and the dream sequence from Batman was, well, a dream. There was no confirmation that that would happen, and Barry tells Bruce that Lois Lane is the key to all of this. So really, apart from a nightmare and an alien attack from 2 years ago, it feels absurdly panicky behavior. And if he understands Lois Lane is the key to his nightmare and wants to entertain that reality, would he not check in on her? If he's Clark's friend, would he not check in on his grieving mother who misses her son? Apparently not, because aside from one interaction when Batman saves Martha in BVS, we never see them interact or bond over the loss of this hero. Also, remember how Superman's death causes the mother box to go into effect? Well, isn't it just convenient that his death triggers monsters to come visit Earth 5,000 years later, just when Bruce happens to be trying to form this alliance, when he has no idea about Steppenwolf showing up until Diana tells him that an invasion is happening. So not only do we have retarded villains, but also moronic heroes. He also asks this Icelandic dude about Aquaman. Like, dude, you know what he looks like, you saw the footage. Why are you asking this question? Why are you wasting time? I thought this was urgent, and why couldn't you use your jet to come to this point? You had to hike all of this to get to this remote location? How do these people even function? It's really odd how the geography operates in this place. Now again, this dude who talked about the 1% chance that Superman might turn evil and thus must eradicate him does not bring any kryptonite in case he has to ward off Superman in the off chance he isn't himself. Nor does he end up telling the others apart from Diana about his weakness that could have been utilized to restrain the dude. I don't care that Batman is acting on faith. He has no backup plans to account for this at all. It is as if him becoming friends with this guy makes him lose all brain cells. Alfred even warns him about the possibility of things going south and perhaps that this isn't the best plan, but nope, Batman does not prepare himself at all with zero kryptonite, nor does he tell the others who may not know his weakness. Although Cyborg should because he is overpowered, but well, I'll get to him soon enough. Somehow he doesn't die from paralysis when Superman throws him into this car and can absorb his lasers because Alfred makes armor for him. Just so happens when Superman shoots his lasers, Batman blocks it, exactly where Alfred made this technology. Nice plot armor, dude. Bruce also makes a plan with these guys to generate enough electricity to stop the Unity from happening, but then drops the rest of them off outside the dome, even though he bombards it with missiles and is able to enter it in his jet. Like, why are you even wasting time with this? Just think of the logistics. So frustrating. And that's all I have to say for Big Boy Bruce, so let's move on to our fellow rapist, Diana. Wonder Woman is also really stupid, and from what I gauge has the biggest power in consistency apart from Cyborg. First, in this hilarious terrorist attack that will blow up 4 blocks, she literally kills dudes by punching them and throwing them against the walls. Which normally would not be an issue, but when her individual films make an emphasis about her trying to protect lives and not killing, I find it absurd that continuity is fucked, but who cares, am I right? Then in order to have a cool moment, she clashes her armbands when the last guy is reloading the gun and ends up destroying part of the building, risking hostage lives and the police officers whose cars got wrecked by the rubble in the process. What a hero. It also doesn't help that our hero happens to be a rapist, and when she can run really fast and take headbutts from Superman or fight a god in Ares, she takes her sweet time between questioning this guy and protecting the innocent, you know, instead of running and gunning this guy instead. There's also a potential character conflict for a character none of you guys give a shit about based on information conveyed: Ares. In Wonder Woman, Diana's mom states that Ares hates humanity and wanted to corrupt them, start wars out of jealousy, so why would he work with them to fight against Darkseid? If anything, based on what we are told, wouldn't Ares side with Darkseid and wage wars on other worlds with him? He is the god of war, or did you forget, Zack? Seems like based on given context of what we are told here and general Greek mythology, they'd be best pals, right? Diana's mom not telling Diana the history of Darkseid when she had major involvement in the conflict is also absurdly stupid, like I had mentioned before. Why the fuck would you not tell your daughter about the threat to Earth you guys fought off? And while she is giving this exposition dump to Batman, she emphasizes how important these mother boxes are, but not once does she approach Cyborg about this. This criticism is applicable to Batman as well, but at the end of the day, it is Wonder Woman who approaches Cyborg to recruit him. You saw the footage of his dad experimenting on him with the mother box. Why wouldn't you ask him about it? In fact, this is never brought up until after Cyborg brings the box after they're done fighting Steppenwolf for the first time. And when you remember this scene, you really realize how stupid she is. She, like in classic fashion, also has no personality whatsoever and keeps harping on Steve Trevor as if she didn't lose her aunt who she's known for thousands of years. Awesome. Remember how I mentioned in that last part where Ares is the one to defeat Darkseid? Okay, so let's do the simple math here. Diana defeats Ares in the first Wonder Woman through the power of love. Ares with zero effort defeats Darkseid. Steppenwolf is Darkseid's lackey and clearly not respected as explained by Desaad, therefore we can make the rational assumption that Darkseid is stronger than Steppenwolf? And let us roll with the idea that this is indeed true. Diana is also the strongest Amazonian warrior by far and the daughter of Zeus. So then why would she struggle to defeat Steppenwolf? If anything, shouldn't be a cakewalk for her. But at times they're equally matched and at times she's getting her ass handed to her. Diana clashing her arms together really works on Steppenwolf, but then like an idiot she doesn't use it often enough. Is there like a charge meter for this? You could very easily have a throwaway dialogue that perhaps it takes a lot of energy out of her to use this power and drains her too quickly. You can in many ways explain her abilities that don't make me question why this wouldn't be used more frequently. As it stands, it's really dumb that she just doesn't. The Amazonians, inclusive of Diana, are really stupid as well because they try signaling an invasion to Diana by shooting an arrow that defies gravity. And the only reason Diana finds out about this one is through the local news channel. How exactly do you go about this when televisions didn't exist? What if the invasion happened then? This is not a nitpick, this is a critical world building issue, because out of conveniences and contrived writing, if these invaders were to come back at any time before telephones or televisions were a thing, there would be no way to inform others on time of this invasion taking place. That in turn leads to not having enough time to be prepared for a battle and results in Earth getting wiped. Oh, and on top of this, they send this fucking arrow and then do nothing for the rest of the film. Why the hell are you dipshits just standing still? No one told you Diana has it covered, and in the off chance you didn't check the news, you are royally fucked. Okay, let's talk about Cyborg, because boy do I have issues with this one. I'll start by talking about the things I thought were fine, had no structural issues, were somewhat serviceable, but didn't move me emotionally in any way. 1. His changes from playing football, being a nice person, having daddy issues, and losing his mother are all things that are fine, but could have been better in my mind with more time to flesh these dynamics out. The thing is, this movie is obviously trying to make him the heart of the story, yet really fails to do so because what do we know about this guy? After watching this movie, I tried to dissect Cyborg's character arc. Keeping his specific actions, lack thereof, or idiotic moments aside, I try to understand his character at its core and what the movie is going for, because he arguably has the most involvement in resolving our main conflict and is a central character. What I'm going to suggest here isn't a complete rewrite of what already happens in the film, rather it is additional content that could have taken place with things that happen in this movie that would help flesh out his character and make the audience care for him more. So let us begin. It is very clear that Cyborg's character arc is about him struggling to accept his reality, and slowly but surely coming to accept that this is who he is now, and should be proud because he can do so much with it, as indicated by the voice note Cyborg's dad leaves behind for him. We know through exposition that Victor cares for his friends or people in general struggling. We know that after getting his powers, Cyborg tries to use them for good for a single mother struggling to pay the bills. This last part is done pretty well, I would say, and I like the execution, but there's definitely a bigger room to do far more and make it better. Why not show Victor living a normal life for a while? Show us the audience of him in a social circle with friends and how great everything is, including more time of Victor and his mom bonding together instead of only talking about Victor's dad not being around. Show his selflessness and how far he goes to help those around him, and this way you play up the idea that he is a hero not based on strength but where his heart lies and through his actions. So when his father gives him all these powers, it is justified. So now, at this point, his social life is great, and his relationship with his mom is great, with the obvious dark spot being the relationship of him with his dad, which is strained because as a kid and now a teenager, a grown adult, his dad doesn't give him any attention. He is not there for his son for moments that his son would deem are important to him, or what we as a society consider a good parent would do. All of this allows us to not only learn more about Cyborg, that is his personality traits, how he treats people, how he thinks, but also his dynamics with others. After the accident takes place, his world turns upside down. His mother, whom he is obviously close to, dies. He can't play football anymore, which as implied by the film is very important to him. His friendships have fallen apart or slowly eroded away, with him coping with the loss, and all he has left is this new body he is ashamed of, with the only relationship left, a strained one, with his father. He tries to step out into the real world but is shunned, judged, and looked at by people giving him the funny eyes. He tries to interact with people, but out of fear of their own safety and unwillingness to trust someone who is mostly metal, they run away. Thus, as a result, he is scared to step out because he hates himself and can't accept who he is. And slowly, it is the strained relationship with his father that makes him come to the realization that this is his second chance to do something great. When he's almost completing this journey, finally making amends with his dad, as his dad is also starting to act like a better one to Victor, through the events of the story and his close involvement with the mother boxes, Steppenwolf kills Victor's dad, possibly because he was either refusing to give up the location, or maybe as it plays out in the underground tunnel to help the others live, he sacrifices himself by providing this information, knowing that once he has served his purpose in Steppenwolf's eyes, he will be axed. This prevents Victor from getting the proper closure he needs to move on. This would also add personal stakes instead of having it simply be the end of the world for Victor. He's now going up against someone who took the only family he had left.
By the end of the movie, the villain is defeated and the rest of the Cyborg story plays out as shown in the movie. He finds the voice recorder his dad had left for him, tells him how much he cares for his son, and offers him motivation that his son is destined for greatness. If you think about everything I just said for a moment, you realize that technically many of these things stated are things that actually happened in the movie, yet they all feel hollow, paper thin, or rushed. Cyborg can be the heart and soul of this movie, yet whether it is through the performance, the direction, and well, really the writing, he feels lifeless with nothing for me to take away from other than his monotone voice. Writing is hard, but through talent, hard work, or both, you can get character work right. But it is so disappointing that in a 4-hour movie, it feels as though I haven't really learned anything about Cyborg because we only spend 10 minutes to get his life story of a very important character. He's one of the few with a complete character arc on paper, but it's just not very satisfying. Now, well, beyond this writing suggestion, I do want to take some time to point out the idiotic character actions and lines delivered by Cyborg. For one, Cyborg says he didn't think Batman was real in part 4, even though he has been around for 20 years, and Cyborg has been in Gotham City, so how the hell would he not know this? The world building is really dumb because when the rumors of a dude in a cape have been flying around for 2 decades, why wouldn't you have any reason to believe he doesn't exist? A nitpick? Sure. Is it stupid though? Yeah, absolutely. You know what isn't a nitpick? The fact that he hides the mother box from the parademons after his dad warns him to, but then just leaves it behind God knows where. And after he's done fighting Steppenwolf for the first time, he brings it back. So why would you leave it behind when you know these guys are tracing the scent? You weren't guarding it, or not that we know of. It's just so stupid that this guy is going to leave the mother box unattended when you know the world is at stake here and the enemy is in need of it. It's really dumb. And this dude never even tells the other heroes that he has the last mother box, even though Diana and Batman should know, like I had mentioned before. Why are you even involved when you're not going to share this critical piece of information beforehand with those who do not know? And right here in front of Gordon, he asks him how to find his dad and the other 8 people who are missing from Star Labs? Dude, you can hack any system, any camera, and control nukes, but you're asking this? You don't need them to figure this out and get information. Oh, and then these assholes just quickly disappear when Gordon turns around. Thanks for being dicks for the sake of a joke, you pricks. Also, why would his dad, well, guess I'll take my issues out on him here, give a high school student the power to hack anything and everything, recreate objects, hack missiles, and stuff when he hasn't earned the responsibility or the weight to carry it in any way? This is far worse here than it was in Spider-Man Far From Home. In that movie, Tony Stark literally gives all access to all weapons to a 15-year-old child, which completely assassinates his character considering how absurdly defensive and pro-Sokovia Accords he was. Yes, he does learn his lesson by the end and doesn't cave into the government's requirements and stuff by the end of Captain America Civil War. He even yells at Peter for being flat out reckless in Spider-Man Homecoming and threatens to take his suit, but post-death will trust all this into a little kid. It is really dumb, but, and well, this is a big but here, you can still make the argument that Peter has been doing heroic stuff for a while. He's used to helping people and saving lives. He fought against Captain America and Thanos' army. This obviously wouldn't resolve the problematic issues and how Far From Home completely fucks over Tony's character, but this is a legit argument that could still be made playing devil's advocate. In this movie, it really cannot be defended because Cyborg has not done anything. At best, he's his dad's lackey who's fed a huge exposition dump on how to use his powers and what all he can do. He doesn't even really go through a training arc. This entire idea is way too unbelievable and absurd. My dad doesn't trust me with his credit card, and you want me to believe this dude's dad will let him access nuclear codes? Bitch, please. Cyborg's dad also awakens the box in order to fix him, but that somehow does not signal Steppenwolf and his posse. How? The movie tells us that its awakening literally told them to come down here, but here it doesn't. You can't even make the Superman protecting Earth argument because the boxes refused to awaken for that reason, but now it has been awoken so he can fix his son. Awesome. I'm so lost. Also, if the mother box can literally transform matter, then why would Cyborg's dad not attempt to give the kid his actual body back? Why would you force your child to go through so much mental trauma, all because you want him to do good? You cannot argue that he didn't know how to fully control the mother box, because if that is the case, then you're telling me he can control it enough to make a metallic super body out of thin air from matter transformation but not flesh and bones? And whatever the theory was that allowed his dad to harness the power is never explained. Victor's dad just did it. it. Wouldn't it be helpful to learn how to harness the power if you want to defeat any of these villains? This question standing if we just accept the inconsistent power scaling for a moment and use it to beat our bad guys? I think it would. Hell, an explanation of him somewhat harnessing the power of the mother box could still be utilized as somewhat of an explanation, even if paper thin, to justify his father giving him this robotic body instead of flesh and bones. And then their plan, charged by Cyborg, becomes to resurrect Superman in the Kryptonian ship. Why do you even need the ship to resurrect him? Your dad resurrected you with enough charge, so why would you have Barry go through all this trouble to resurrect him? And how do you know to use this ship? You mentioned you aren't good with Kryptonian technology and don't have much information, but can transform your arm as you like to and use this ship? Fucking fantastic. His auto defense system is also really whack, so it activates the moment it sees Superman but not when fighting Steppenwolf and the Parademons. And no, this isn't a nitpick because it is his entire auto defense system that starts the fight between a stupid Superman and the rest of the Justice League. His dad, in order to mark the mother box with heat signature, sacrifices himself like an idiot, even though he really didn't need to. He could have been outside and possibly stayed alive. And then he has the audacity to not even yell when his body is literally disintegrating? Nice resistance, dude. And finally, in Cyborg's last few moments, the voice recorder that he crushed when hearing his dad talk is now back to normal because Cyborg can reverse matter and just put things back together. It isn't even like he fixed it and you can see the broken pieces and the cracks or anything. He literally used the fucking time stone on this shit and it is back to new. Why would he do this when using Batman's mobile? Logically, I guess it makes sense because he got his powers from the mother boxes, which can do the same thing, but can you not put your dad back together? Your mom? Your actual body? This is such an overpower because technically this dude basically just reversed time, sort of, and it is never utilized when it could have been and is never explained.
Every moment I live is agony.
You see, initially when I was drafting this portion, I thought Barry was stupid but didn't have that many issues, and upon thinking it through, I realized that yes, he doesn't have too many issues, but the problem is the issues he does have are super significant and pose questions because they would retroactively make the other films worse and puts the entire ending into question. He also has this absurd moment which is really hilarious to me. So he creepily fixes this girl's hair when she gets into a car crash and almost dies. I was laughing the entire time, especially after he grabs the sausage, because I immediately raised an eyebrow for reasons you might already guess. His shoes burn up when he runs fast, but his clothes don't when in reality they should. It's really weird. He can also somehow see Batman's Batarang be thrown from less than 5 feet away, but then forgets about this big pile of rubble falling down when saving these people, and instead chooses to yell rather than saving them. Well, good thing Cyborg showed up on time. Speaking of which, what is with him encouraging these assholes to go up the stairs? You are powerful enough and fast enough to carry these people over, not to mention you can help your friends out a la Batman while they're fighting Steppenwolf, but instead you're wasting precious time. Great job, dipshit. And if he can just run in a straight line without a proper build-up to charge enough electricity to not only revive Superman but also reverse time in 2 instances, then why would he keep running in circles? What good does it do to him? It isn't like he built up the charge and retains it, because if that is the case, he wouldn't have to yell at Victor about not being able to hold on any longer. He could just chill for a few seconds. Speaking of time travel, Barry can time travel, which isn't a problem in itself. The problem is that there are no defined rules, because if he can time travel with 0 consequences, then why not go back to the events of BVS and prevent Superman from dying? You know what that would do? Erase this movie from existence, because the mother box would never open and therefore never call Steppenwolf. But this mechanic is never explained, and it is utilized to bring our heroes back to life after they're all killed by the explosion. These 2 scenes alone create massive issues with the entire movie, even though at this point I'm sure many of you are questioning the logic. And all these people die, but the Flash just doesn't? He is in proximity of the blast. If this kills Superman, you better damn believe it would kill the Flash too. But fuck me, I guess. I really hate this movie, so I'm just gonna move on. Aquaman probably has the least number of issues, and I think it might simply be from the fact that he doesn't really do much, like, at all. But he is also really stupid, so let's go. For some reason, he is very unwilling to work with Batman, even though Batman argues that there are threats and they will need him, but he turns him down. Yes, at this point, Batman does not know about Steppenwolf, but this argument falls apart because it is about the future, but nope, he just turns him down for no valid reason whatsoever. And also, what's with this chick smelling Aquaman's sweater? Like, what the fuck? It is also really odd that somehow he conveniently shows up the very moment Steppenwolf shows up to collect the mother box and nearly decapitates Mira and is slower than Steppenwolf, who I guess is experienced when it comes to fighting underwater. Did I miss the memo on Steppenwolf being an Atlantean? Because why is he able to breathe underwater? Shouldn't he lose oxygen and die? It's rhetorical because he should lose oxygen and die. Then he shows up to the first fight versus Steppenwolf with the Justice League despite not having known or be disclosed this information. This is an important flaw considering he becomes integral to allowing the rest of the heroes to escape from Flood and offer Cyborg enough time. He then creates fake tension bullshit by questioning Cyborg's loyalty even though the guy has been around for longer. Within this given context, you have no right to accuse the man who's been working with the League for longer, albeit by only 10 minutes, that his loyalties lie elsewhere when you told the man trying to form this team to piss off. This reminds me of our character conflict in Avengers, except Avengers is a great movie with fully fleshed out characters with drastically different personalities that would lead to inevitable conflict, but here there is no reason for this to happen. Sure, it doesn't have a massive ramification on the plot, but like Aquabro is just really annoying here. His speed is super inconsistent because one moment he's fast in the shot of the League in the climax, but then he isn't as fast when fighting Superman, or is it just the slow motion getting to my brain? Even underwater, when fighting Steppenwolf, he slows down like a moron. Also, King Orm doesn't view Steppenwolf's arrival as a massive threat to all kind on Earth. He cares more about the pollution in the sea than the end of the world and thus refuses to help out in any way. Orm, your guards are disappearing as stated by Vulko and you are not concerned about that? If you care so much about Atlantis, wouldn't you know the history of Darkseid and his minions? If you make the case that he does know who that is but not Steppenwolf, I would say it doesn't matter because both of them have parademons with him, so even then, he should have somewhat of a clue. If that's a stretch, you still have guards missing who are guarding one of the most powerful weapons that all three major groups swore to protect. I mentioned this whole last point about his knowledge because it should play into a sense of urgency from Orm to fight the bigger threat. Aquaman, despite his family relation, should be trying to convince the Atlanteans to help because at this point, they do not know how the events will unfold. You want all the help you can get. It is one thing to be turned down, but Arthur doesn't even try to reason with the king when a sacred weapon being protected by his men is stolen because he's pissy about having a stepbrother. Good fucking job, movie. And just a moment ago, I mentioned how Vulko says the guards are disappearing who are protecting the mother box, but how exactly does this work? You're literally guarding the box. The parademons come and kidnap you and they don't see the box next to you? Are they not guarding right next to the box? And if you are far away from the box, it would be very easy to sneak past them and get to that box and then steal it. This whole security thing is a stupid throwaway dialogue, but it makes things worse because shit makes zero sense when you see where the box is placed. It is out in the fucking open, you morons. The same trident that holds up the Steppenwolf and his axe apparently just doesn't to King Orm, who breaks it in half. Seems like Orm would have been very helpful, but what the hell do I know? Oh, and then Waterman does these huge blasts, but then tends to forget about them because just like Wonder Woman, he doesn't utilize the power he has, which are effective against Steppenwolf with no explanation. Oh my god, I'm out of breath. Let's just move on to Superboy. So Superman has like 3 cool moments, like freezing Steppenwolf's axe or getting into a headbutt contest with Diana, but holy shit, despite the lack of screen time, he suffers so much. Like, he suffers as a character more per minute than all the other heroes in our movie. Immediately the movie starts and we have some really dumb stuff going on. So Superman is so loud that he wakes up not 2, not 3, but 1 mother box. Like I mentioned before in my last segment, this makes zero sense. Superman screamed at Man of Steel, but no mother boxes were activated then, and on top of that, his scream is so loud. The mother box requires a lot of energy to open up as established, but Superman screamed, and buildings don't fall apart, people don't go deaf, nothing happens at all, and his voice just spreads like a ripple, like like it echoes? That's not how sound works in an open space. There's internal consistency and then there's external consistency, like how sound works, or if a person stands right next to an exploding vehicle, they should be One of the biggest problems with Superman is similar to that of Batman. We're building off of its predecessor in chronological order, BVS. A lot of that movie is about him being held accountable for the destruction of Metropolis, but then he dies so nothing comes of it. Then this dude wakes up and nearly kills, if not kills because it's hard to tell, a US soldier shooting at him because of the fight between our heroes, and he's never held accountable for it. He at no point after this scene at his house in Kansas feels any sense of remorse whatsoever. There's no point where he feels guilty at all. Nobody sets a search party or warrant or anything for Superman. And the gunshot from this dude also causes a whiplash for Superman when it should just bounce off. But yeah, it's a nitpick. And that's one of my biggest issues. No, not the stupid gunshot, the lack of accountability for his actions. His negligence is never brought up in this movie. Based on his actions so far, why do the people of this world even view him as a savior? This is carried forward from previous films, but there is zero sense of guilt, horror, or even fear of the lives lost due to his carelessness, or maybe even the idea that he won't be able to save every life. Superman stays the same throughout and does not change one single bit. He somehow then remembers his humanity all because of Lois Lane, who is useless as fuck, and just so happens to be getting coffee that day and giving it to the police officer as if going to a place close to where Superman died is just what she does on her daily basis. The world would be really fucked if she just didn't appear on time. You do know that, right? Also, he doesn't remember his parents at all, and the lasso of truth does not work in reminding Clark of who he is. Is this all based on willpower? That is one of my questions about this stupid lasso, because as far as I'm aware, it is never really explained within the film as to, do you need strong willpower to resist the power of the lasso? I already talked about this in my Wonder Woman review, but this stupid lasso is one of the dumbest devices in the entire universe, so I refrain from talking about it any further. Oh, and then worst of all, Superman just takes his time with Lois and his mom, even though it is very evident that the world is at stake here. Like, my guy, the world will cease to exist if you don't hurry. You want to speed up to Bruce Wayne's secret base even though no one told you where it is? Please?
Be my customer! Taste it!
Oh my gosh. No, thanks, Chowder. Please? No, Chowder.
Pretty please.
What the?
Please, 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 please!
No, 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 no!
A few moments later.
He lasers Steppenwolf and sees how effective it is, but doesn't keep lasering him. Like, his eyes are right there, just blind the dude. And like I mentioned before, Superman decides to not laser Darkseid in this final scene and keeps staring at him. He doesn't even make an attempt, nor do the rest of our heroes. They all just have a standoff and decide to go back home. Then in this stupid fucking nightmare of a scene, we see that Superman is evil, has killed heroes, and enslaved humanity, which would officially make him worse than Hitler and Stalin. Not only that, but all of this because Lois Lane dies. You guys know how stupid that is? The idea that this dude, who for 30 years before Lois Lane entered his life and has quote-unquote morals that he supposedly sticks by, will now become an evil, overpowered dictator because she died? That makes him a horrible person, because all that means is Superman has no real standards. That is, without Lois Lane, he has no virtues and no morals. He doesn't actually believe in humanity, in goodness, in being selfless. Superman becoming evil is cool as a what-if Elseworld story, but not as your mainline story. As negligent as Superman in this universe is, even then this fails to make any sense. Superman is a symbol of hope. The fucker literally says that in his origin movie, and has evidently believed in it till now, and now decides to be evil. This dude handles breakups worse than I do. Man, fuck this movie. Anytime these three appear, they added nothing to the film and in fact only detracted from it, so let us talk about our first guy, MM, because he presents the biggest problems. In part 4, we see Lois and Martha talking to each other about their lives and Clark and bond with each other, and then Martha leaves, only for her to transform into Martian Manhunter, but even worse, it happens to be the army general guy. This guy's been around this entire time but does absolutely nothing to help our heroes defeat the evil at hand? Do I even need to elaborate on how stupid this is? Why would you even make this a reveal? This retroactively makes your films worse, Zack. What are you thinking? He's more negligent than Superman because at least Superman fought the fucking monsters. And then this guy decides to let Bruce Wayne know that he exists, has been around Earth for quite some time, wants to join the Justice League, and Bruce, like the super smart person that he is, questions none of it whatsoever. He doesn't even ask where the hell this guy was. They don't even try to make a meta joke out of it. Can you at least be self-aware, you stupid, worthless, honey fuck of a movie? Bye! God, I hate Lois Lane. All she does is moan and weep about how much she misses Superman, but doesn't even really look all that sad. She solely exists to remind Superman of his humanity, even though Clark shouldn't need this. Like, why would he even go through this evil phase in the first place? I don't know. I've never died and been brought back to life, so who am I to say? And I mentioned this in the previous segment, but her showing up conveniently to the exact location where Superman is fighting the rest of the Justice League is absurdly contrived. She only now goes to give coffee. Fucking fantastic. Also, I have a question. How far is Kansas from Metropolis? I ask this because Lois talks to Martha, and then the very next day, Martha is in Kansas, but she never questions it at all. Like, how the hell does the geography of this world even operate? Shouldn't she be questioning how this elderly bitch made it here on time? Because I think she should. Which gets me to my last character.
Why did you say that name?
Martha, the bane of my damn existence. My criticism is that since BVS, I have PTSD, and thus every time I hear the word Martha, I have nightmares and feel like shooting myself in the foot. Yeah, that's basically it. She has nothing to do in this movie, nor does she really affect it in any way structurally. I only brought her up out of my own trauma. But if I am criticizing the overarching character developments and traits of two of the Trinity from previous films, then I have to be consistent here too by simply bringing up that her entire existence, or well, rather her name, is the reason that our two central characters are friends now. God, I wish she would die a painful, miserable death because she's the reason for this retarded character dynamic.
Tripping, bro. You tripping.
Unless you're Lord of the Rings Return of the King Extended Edition, you probably do not need to be a 4-hour-long movie. This movie is stupid, but on top of it, it is 4 hours long, and as a result, I struggled to finish this movie. There are plenty of scenes that are either dragged out, contribute nothing to the movies, or are setups for future movies. The added content in this film makes things way worse, showing that length does not equate to quality. So let me run down several moments that jump out to me. In the beginning of the film, we see Bruce Wayne walking and walking and walking until he finds Arthur and tries to recruit him. In fact, this scene of him walking lasts almost 3 minutes because I count it. I really do not need to see Batman walking for almost 3 minutes of the movie to understand what is going on. I already mentioned earlier how he should have flown because otherwise the geography of this Icelandic town makes no sense and is really dumb. This is all stupid. As visually appealing and Diana throwing fast punches is, this scene of her fighting terrorists and Bruce Bolton does not belong here. It is 7 minutes and in no way contributes anything to the actual plot of the movie. If this was a quick 5-minute or less scene, I wouldn't even mind it, but when your movie is 4 hours long with a pace slower than the mile time of a fucking snail, I would rather have you get to the point. This scene of Aquaman and Vulko talking should not belong here in this movie. It solely exists to set up for a movie and create conflict for said movie that already came out. I understand that a lot of these scenes were shot before Aquaman came out, but this scene, regardless of when Aquaman came out, does nothing for the film itself. It only makes things worse by putting King Orm into question as a character, like I brought up earlier. Why do we need to focus on Aquaman becoming the true king of Atlantis? Towards the very end of the movie, we get a 10-minute dream sequence of a post-apocalyptic world where Superman is evil, Aquaman is dead, and the Joker and Batman have formed an alliance. After bringing back Superman from the dead an hour ago and reminding him of his humanity, the film wants to make Superman evil again. I've ranted about this earlier, so I won't delve too much into into the details, but this scene has nothing to do with Steppenwolf, Darkseid, nor the mother boxes, and in fact the conflict at hand has been resolved, albeit temporarily. This scene exists to waste my time, and as someone who does not like this movie, I really didn't get any more excited after watching it, especially when the idea is about Superman becoming evil. Lex Luthor disappearing is also really dumb and drawn out. He just disappears, but on top of that, the scene of him and the guard calling him out is needlessly long. After this, we get a scene of Deathstroke meeting Lex Luthor, which is another drawn out scene, because at the end of the scene, Lex Luthor tells Deathstroke that Batman's real identity is Bruce Wayne. Why would you even call this guy to your yacht only to tell him this? You didn't have his phone number? And finally, as mentioned before, the slow motion played throughout this film. According to IGN, there's 24 minutes and 7 seconds of slow motion in this film, meaning over 10% of Justice League is all slow motion. If you actually do the rough math and add up all these scenes only I brought up, not even considering other potential moments that waste good time, you nearly cut 55 minutes of the movie. I'm not lying, I counted. This movie is hot garbage. I really hate this movie with a burning passion, and this film truly shows why you shouldn't listen to fans, because fans are idiots. I hope to God we never get a sequel to this, and get actual talented individuals leading the creative direction and crafting movies about heroes who are deserving of good movies. And you know, it is a shame because for the most part, so many of these actors are talented and not done justice because the scripts they get are just so god awful. I love Henry Cavill, and Ben Affleck, and Ezra Miller, and Amy Adams, and Jeremy Irons, and more, except for you, Jared Leto, and Gal Gadot. They're all fantastic actors with great talents, yet they're given these horribly written scripts with directors who don't know what the hell to do with them, and it saddens me. But in any case, these are what I believe to be some of the biggest problems of the film, each of which has smaller problems that all build up to make a movie that makes no sense, a world building made of rubble, characters that lack common sense, and villains who suffer from dementia. Of course, there are more issues with the film that exist that I probably did not cover, a few big, a few small, and many that can be discussed for an endless number of hours. If you enjoyed this movie, that is awesome. Again, that's cool and all, but I just do not understand you. But whatever, man, I'm done talking about this garbage. Now, if you don't mind, I shall go play some Apex and eat some Taco Bell goodness.